want to get to Meta earnings. They're crossing the wires right now. Dan Howley has that for us. Hey, Dan.
That's right, Shauna. We have a beat on revenue, but a miss on earnings per share. They came in at 27.7 billion on revenue. Expectations were for 27.4 billion. Earnings per share were $1.64. Expectations were for $1.89. But what the real issue here is their Q4 guidance. It came in lighter than expected. Meta's saying between 30 billion and 32.5 billion. The street was expecting 32.2 billion. They also said that they're going to be pacing spending on Reality Lab investments in 2023, but that past 2023, but in 2023, the spending will be significantly higher on that. And that's the operation that cost them $10 billion last year as they try to ramp up their metaverse capabilities and move into that kind of company. Reality Lab operating losses for this quarter were at 3.67 billion. That's versus expectations of 3.09 billion. Now, they did have a little bit lighter than expected monthly active users at 2.96 billion versus expectations of 2.97 billion. And we also saw Facebook daily active users beat that came in at 1.98 billion versus 1.86 billion users. So really not a great look for Facebook here. Obviously, Meta, we're looking at shares down more than 6%. And you can imagine what it'll be like tomorrow as everyone else digests this news.
Yeah, exactly. It was off just around 5.5% already today. We're seeing a drop again, Dave, of just over 6% here after hours.
Yeah, the stock's already down 62% for the year. There's not a whole lot more room to fall, one would think. Dan, would you characterize these as bad, but maybe not as bad as some expected?
But, you know, they did beat on revenue, but they did miss on these earnings per share. I think it's the moving forward that people are more spooked by, and, basically saying that they're going to be dumping even more money in next year for Reality Labs and then pacing the spending. They did say that it seems like they're going to be reducing some headcount. They said they're going to be shrinking some in teams while other teams would remain flat. So they are going to be looking at trimming some expenses.
Yeah.
But, this is a company that's been just smashed since really, Apple came out with those privacy changes for iOS. And then since then, the slowdown in the economy and the digital ad market really just kind of crushing them at the same time that they're spending all this money on the Reality Labs venture, which we don't even know if that's going to be a big deal in the future or not.
Yeah, Dan, that headcount, those couple lines did stick out to me. They see headcount ending 2023 next year about in line with what it currently was in the third quarter of 2022, saying that they're making changes across the board to operate more efficiently. They're going to hold some teams, the headcount on some teams flat, while they also have plans to shrink some others. Dan ticked through some of the Reality Labs numbers there. I think that's a big reason why the stock is off in after hours, in addition to that light guidance that we're getting here from Meta. Also, just in terms of Facebook, monthly active users, daily active users, I want to quickly point that out. Monthly active users, 2.96 billion. That was a slight miss there. Daily active users, a bit better, but we certainly are not seeing that growth like we used to. And we know Meta has certainly tried to diversify its business from what we initially thought of when we thought of Meta. We obviously had the huge focus on Facebook, but that is certainly the switch that we've seen and the way that the company has progressed, Wall Street has not been on board with.